are two very distinctly different tough guys in this movie. Did you actually get to discuss which tough guy you get to be?
We never intersected on this film.
Yeah.
I didn't meet Paul till after the fact at Comic-Con. It was the first time we shook hands with each other, having just finished the film. He was involved from the get-go in a much grander capacity. And because I was shooting a TV show at the time, I got in and I got out. I basically worked on the film for a day and a half.
Wow.
So, everything I thought about the character that Paul was playing was what I was imagining when I was reading the script. I'm told he's fantastic in the movie. I don't know whether I believe it or not, but that's what I'm told.
You've been told
by my people.
By my spies. I hired them to tell you that. So. Listen, I think that we're much different tough guys in the movie. Ron represents a different kind of, I think Sean, we were doing an interview yesterday and he was talking about how he grew up playing in his band in New York City clubs, rock clubs, and the two different characters we play is Ron represents the CBGBs, the original rock clubs, and I represent the new rock clubs that are sort of kind of Walmart-esque and are sort of running the old school clubs out of town. And that's sort of the difference between our two tough guy characters.
And what kind of direction did Sean kind of give you guys? Because this movie spends a lot of time splitting the difference between like surreal or dreamlike, like weird sequences in it. And then playing it pretty straight. What kind of direction did he give you? Did he say like, don't get too weird, play, or did he say like, this is the part where I hallucinate? And
well, my character is not really part of the dream stuff, but Sean, the thing that's great about digital is that you get to do many different takes. You're not really shooting on film, so it's not as expensive. But we played around with it. We played. I don't know about you, Ron, but we went through so many different levels, so that we had options in the editing room.
Yeah.
I mean, from the moment I started talking to him about the character Bill that I play, who's kind of managing this club and has been doing so probably since the '60s. He's old school. He was like around probably when Fillmore East was happening, and so there's a way that he approaches everything that's really almost like antiquated. I wasn't familiar with the world at all. I wasn't familiar with who this guy is and what his modus operandi is. So Sean was incredibly specific with painting a picture for me about where a guy like me fits into the big scheme of things and what's on the line for me, what's at stake for me. And so I found him to be as informative of the performance I ended up giving as any director that I've ever worked with. Most of the time, 95% of the time, a director doesn't say anything to you. They just see what you're going to do, and unless you go horribly wrong, they just move on. They get the shot, they move on because they have so much else to worry about, and they're hoping that the actor solves the problem. But in Sean's case, everything you see on the screen on this film is a direct result of his vision, and I was thrilled to give myself over to it, because when I saw the short film, I realized that this was a truly visionary guy.
Yeah, and an Oscar helps too. It helps you to.
Well, that's just an affirmation, but I didn't need to know that he had an Oscar to know what a great film it was.
Yeah, could you tell on paper that it's actually pretty funny too?
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the duality is there from the beginning, and I mean, that first scene, in the short anyway, I haven't seen the opened up version of it yet, where he takes the phone call, and the way he's revealed at the end of the phone call when he hangs up and what he's in the process of doing. I was ready to sign on without watching another frame of the film, because that was so clever and so funny, considering how dire the situation was. I mean, the way he was able to juxtapose these two absurd worlds, and actually end up getting a belly laugh from me. It was like, I'm working with this dude.
You're like, addiction, suicide, warring factions, done.
Yeah. I think you're ruining it for the audience.
I think a lot of that is revealed in the first 5 minutes because I've seen the film.
Yeah, but you got to see the first 5 minutes.
It is stupendous. The visuals are kind of are really stunning in
Whatever
this.
the next question is, I'm not answering it.
He's done.
I got
He's
it.
just hanging out.
I got you covered.
With having seen the short film, what ideas in that were you excited to see expanded in the future? Like experiencing that short film, like what are you like, oh, this guy has a vision for XYZ, I can't wait to see this?
Well, I think the most important, I was sort of involved in the creation of Sean obviously wrote every word, but Damon and myself, our other producer, were involved in sort of developing the feature-length version. And it was really interesting because Sean, he's sort of a mad genius, so he sort of sat and wrote 200 pages of like backstory and all these tangents and B story, C story, D story, and threw all of these pages at us, and Damon and I were like, we didn't, and it was all incredibly intriguing material, but we didn't really know where to go with the feature. And what we landed on essentially in the end was the beautiful relationship between this little girl and this guy who's literally at the lowest point of his life. And that's what it's about. I mean, all the other sort of surreal moments and all of the visuals are nothing more than the cherry on top to this beautiful relationship between these two people. And for me, I said, look, we obviously want to deviate a little bit from the short, but that is the core essence of this film. That's the reason we're making a feature version of this, because this is such an interesting relationship.
And for both of you guys, what itch does this scratch as an actor? Where did you feel like this is why I do what I do?
I'll answer this first, and then I'll give you I'll just say this really quickly. I don't want to hog the mic, but for me, it was obviously I'm on the show. I've been on the show for 5 years, and to do something that is the complete opposite of my character was like cold water on a hot day, And then, this character Gideon is his greatest drive throughout. Behind his tough guy facade, his greatest drive in this is, and I hate to sound cheesy, it's love. He's a hopeless, he's completely in love with this girl, and everything that he does that is tough, all that exterior, is, we all know deep down inside, is just because he's, for whatever reason, desperately in love with this woman that we all know is, well, I don't want to ruin it for people who haven't seen it, but it's on the first frame. She's literally the first thing we learn. She's dead. So it's it's kind of a tragic thing. But anyway, here we are. I'm over with the mic. I'm
Over
done.
now.
Yeah, this is it.
For me, it was, what do I have to do? I mean, the playing of Bill was really secondary. I just wanted to be around Sean Christensen, because what I had seen him mount on the screen was so unique, so refreshing, such a truly evolved new voice in cinema, that I just wanted to be around him to see what his process is and how he arrives at what he arrives at. And so whatever I had to do, the only contribution I could make to it was as an actor, and luckily he found a character that we agreed, I could, attack and be helpful to the ultimate end result of the film. But that's it for me. I mean, I just want, for me, I'm still a student of great cinema, and I'm still a fanboy of great cinema. And when I see a guy that's just turns my head to the degree that Sean did, I just want to be in his world in whatever capacity I can be, to just kind of soak in his brilliance.
Got it. And final question for you. You kind of alluded to it in talking about with Vampire Diaries. Do you purposefully want to seek out characters that are far from what you've been playing for the last 6 seasons?
Yeah, look, I think when you're on a show, period, and you're there for, it's particularly in network shows, 22 episodes out of a year, it airs 9 months out of the year, you're doing the same thing weekly. It's relatively out there in the public eye, it's social, yeah, people start to associate you with something, and it can be difficult. And so, yes, of course, I mean, I think that goes without saying. But again, to echo Ron's words, it's sort of, Sean has been a friend of mine for, I don't know, 15 years, but I've always admired him as a musician, as a painter, as a writer. My whole life, I've been a fan of his. And so for me, when he gave me the opportunity to work with him, it was less about just doing something different and more about, oh man, I'm going to be working with this guy who is one of my closest friends, but also I admire so much as an artist. If he was here, he'd be so upset that we're.
He's all blushy.
He doesn't take compliments well. So I'm glad he's not in this room.
All right, well, he's gonna watch this video.
I don't know.
He's gonna know.
I'll tell him not to.
For breaking entertainment news and more, follow @HitVix on Twitter or visit hitvix.com.